let's see. What has happened since the last time we recorded?
You had a birthday.
I had a birthday. I ate some good falafel.
Yeah. I wanted to apologize to you for your birthday.
Oh?
Yeah. Well, I feel like you had a really crappy birthday this year. Because, like, on your actual birthday, like, me and Bear were in town late because I had to work late. And then he had piano lessons. And then he didn't
end
feel
up having
good.
piano lessons, though.
Yeah, but then he didn't feel good. And then I had a migraine. And I felt like we just, like, kind of ran in the house and threw your presents at you and went to bed.
It happens.
So,
You can buy me some more falafel.
It's so smelly.
It smells so good, though. Like, I don't know why you think it smells bad. It smells so good. It tastes so good.
It's not my favorite smell.
Falafel is amazing.
I'm glad that you've discovered it and that you like it, but shoo, it's not for me.
Ugh, it's delicious, and I think it smells delicious.
Well, to each their own, I guess.
Tonight I had pizza and watched King of the Hill.
Taco pizza?
No, veggie lover's pizza.
No.
I wonder if she's ever had taco pizza before. I have to ask her.
I don't know. Well, I worked, and then I ate a baked potato.
Yeah. I mean, I worked today, just not this evening.
Yep.
I had to deal with middle school kids all day.
Yeah, they're worse than high school kids.
Yeah. So far, sadly, everyone is worse than high school kids.
You would think the high schoolers would be the worst.
You would think, but everybody else is worse than high school kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have an episode.
Yeah, well, so...
It's a little late, but...
Yeah. This week was just so hectic.
Yeah, we had a lot going on this week.
And it's still hectic.
Yeah.
It hasn't ended yet.
We're not done with the hecticness, but we've got to get this episode in somehow.
Well, that's right. We couldn't leave you hanging. So, I thought, in honor of your birthday,
okay,
and to try to make up for your crappy birthday,
okay,
that I would give you a little treat.
Oh?
Yeah.
I
know.
I don't think our show is really about treats.
This one's a treat.
Okay.
All right. So, this story is, like, widely covered on several podcasts, and I listened to 3 different shows.
Okay.
So I listened to the episode that last podcast on the left did, and they did a really good job talking about, like, the supernatural aspect of this story.
Okay.
I listened to And That's Why We Drink, and M did a really good job of, like, the silly part of the story, and I listened to the Dark Histories podcast, who did an extensive amount of research on this, like, to the point where they had 2 episodes that were over an hour each.
Okay.
Like, he was talking about that he, like, paid money for, like, old newspapers and things to, like, get research on this, and I did not do that, but, so anyway... So if you want a more extensive story to this, go check out
Deep Dive
Dark Histories or Last Podcast on the Left, because they both did really good episodes on this. Alright, so with that being said, we are journeying across the pond today.
Okay.
To the Isle of Man.
Alright.
Which is a small island about halfway between Ireland and Great Britain. According to Google, it is a crown dependency, whatever that means, for the British monarch, but it isn't actually part of the UK, so I was wondering if it was like Puerto Rico.
Maybe.
Like a territory or something.
How Puerto Rico's kind of part of the United States, but not really.
So I literally, like, every time I thought of this story, my brain kept saying the Isle of Wight instead of the Isle of Man.
It's a different isle.
It's a different isle. And I don't even know why I would think the other isle, because there's nothing to it. Is it Hazel?
The cat wants in the room again.
Well, she's a star.
Yes.
A star is born.
She made her podcast debut last week, and
she can't get enough.
Can't get enough. It's all about her now.
She's like, just give the people what they want. That's right. I know. Tell them. Tell them all about it. She's purring really loud. Everybody hear that? Okay. All right. So anyway.
So 2 different aisles.
2 different aisles. This one's Isle of Man. So in modern days, this island is apparently known for its natural beauty, history, and motorcycle racing.
Okay.
Yeah. However, we are in modern times. We are in 1931. And I guess in the 1930s, the Isle of Man was a popular tourist destination. But honestly, that doesn't really have anything to do with the story either. So, the Irving family, consisting of James, Margaret, and their 13-year-old daughter. Okay. She has a name.
Okay.
And 3 different podcasts pronounced it 3 different ways.
Okay.
So, last podcast on the left called her Voira.
Okay.
M called her Voiri because that's like phonetically how it looks.
Okay.
And Dark History said Voire. And he's actually English, so he probably is correct.
Okay.
So anyway, Voire. So this Irving family are basically what the story is about. Well, they're main characters, so we'll start with them. James Irving was born near Liverpool in 1873. He had a pretty, not like lavish upbringing, but like comfortable. His dad was a train driver, and I guess that was a good job in 1873. James and Margaret got married in 1897. They had their first child 4 months later. So, like, I'm guessing that was a shotgun wedding. They had another child 3 years later. Margaret worked as a dressmaker, and James was apparently quite the successful piano salesman.
Okay.
Dark Histories said that he ran a piano dealership, importing instruments from Canada, and was the principal agent for this business throughout Europe. So he traveled a lot, and he brought in a pretty decent salary. So the family moved into a terraced home with a servant in Liverpool, and life was good until the First World War. And during the First World War, the country put like a gigantic tax on luxury items because they were trying to like free up shipping or something for like things that they actually needed. And so apparently pianos are luxury goods.
I guess you don't need one.
So the piano dealership went belly up. And James tried a couple of other careers, but the Irving family decided they needed a fresh start. Margaret's parents lived on the Isle of Man, and when they saw the Dorlish Cashin farm for sale, they jumped right on that. They purchased the house and 70 acres of land for a whopping £310.
Whoa.
I know. So I've
got £310.
I actually do right this very second have that. Well, no, I don't. Because remember, this is the 1910s.
I'm saying I have £310. I'm not talking about what the
conversion is.
What the conversion rate is. I'm talking about the actual £310.
Yeah.
I could buy it.
Yeah. So what I did was I went to Google and I said, all right, what is 310 pounds in US dollars? And Google told me it was about $400. And then I went to an inflation calculator and I checked to see how much $400 would be today. And it's about $10,000, which still a house and 70 acres for $10,000 doesn't seem too shabby.
I don't have that much, but it still doesn't seem that bad.
No. But when the Irvings got there with their son, because their older daughter stayed in England, they found a house that needed renovated badly. So this house possibly dated back to the 1300s. I saw another website where there's like weird like cairns and like burial mounds and stuff near this farmhouse, and so they think that it could date like way, way, way back.
Yeah.
The house isn't even there anymore. It's been torn down, but So while the family did some remodeling, they didn't seem to give it the modern amenities of electricity or indoor plumbing. So the whole house, even after the renovations, was lit entirely by paraffin lamps. And the other podcast that I listened to made it sound like this farm was like super remote. But when I Google Maps the site of the farmhouse to the nearby like town of Dalby, it was only like a mile away and said it would take 20 minutes to walk there. So like to me that doesn't sound super remote. But I don't know. So anyway,
you have to remember how small these places are and how far they consider things.
That's true. Because like we drive like 2 hours to get milkshakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
And we don't consider that to be,
excessive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, anyway, 2 years after the Irving family moved in, James and Margaret had another child, their daughter, Voirrey. Their son was, like, over living on the Isle of Man and wanted to go back to England. And so it ended up just being the parents and Voirrey. And another thing that I forgot to mention was that apparently this land was like a farm, but was like hard to farm.
Okay.
And so they weren't even doing well as farmers from what I could tell. One source said they were living on 15 shillings per week, which roughly translates to like living on $35 a week now. So now we're going to fast forward to 1931. And Voirrey is now 13. And the family is still steadfastly sticking to this farm. And on Sunday, September 13th, which I thought was very specific, James and Margaret start hearing strange tappings and knockings coming from the ceiling of the house.
Okay.
And they figured it was just a mouse or some other critter.
Like that?
Just like that. The cat's knocking something
over.
Yeah. Okay, so nappings
and tappings.
Yes. So, critter. So, James climbs up to see if he could see any signs of an animal living in the attic, and he doesn't see anything, but he finds something strange. Dark Histories was the only place that I heard this detail, but James found a small Indian statue that was his, but he had no idea how it had gotten into the attic.
Okay.
Yeah. So the noises keep happening, and after a few days, the sounds start changing. So adding to the taps and the knocks, now they start hearing things that sound like cats hissing and dogs barking and like weird breathing noises. And then they start hearing noises like something was running back and forth through the house. And whatever this was causing enough of a ruckus that a painting on the wall started swinging on its nail. And they start figuring that this is some sort of like rat or infestation of rats until they start hearing laughing.
The rats think it's funny.
The rats thought it was hilarious. They were having a really good time.
Watch us make this painting move and these people freak out.
Yeah.
Let's tap and knock on things and scare the humans.
So like the mice in Coraline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not just laughing, it's like evil cackling laughing.
Okay.
And so these noises
That's
went on.
That's not ominous at all.
Right. I would have just left.
I only paid £310 for this place. We got our £310 worth.
Well, it's like the people who bought the Amityville house and they like literally stayed there for a night. They were like, never mind. We don't need to own this house anymore. So this goes on for like a month. And I don't think I would have lasted a day. So one night, James was in the outhouse and he hears rocks being thrown at the door. And another time, Voirrey had rocks thrown at her in the house. And so now it isn't just making noises. And James even thought that at one point the thing spit on him. And he was also sure that it was peeing in the house because there was wet patches that couldn't be explained. But I was just like, but also did it stink?
Right.
So, I don't know. So James starts hearing the noises change into something that he described as the gibberish of a baby making sounds when it's learning to talk. So he starts teaching it to talk.
Why?
I don't know.
I mean, like, what's worse? It making weird noises at you, or it saying words to you?
I mean, maybe he was like, maybe if I teach it to talk, it can tell me what it's doing.
I don't know.
And so...
I don't know how I feel about that.
The way I'm interpreting this next part is that he would do the thing that we do with children where we're like, what does a cow sound like? And then the thing would like moo at him. Or he would like be like, what does a dog sound like? And then the thing would bark at him. And so within the week, this thing starts speaking like full English.
Well, it's very intelligent.
And its voice was high-pitched, like shrill, and it still did the creepy maniacal cackling. And sometime in October, James and Voyre claimed that they glimpsed the creature. And they described it as a small animal with a rat-like body with a long bushy tail, and its fur was yellowish speckled with brown. But its paws were actually human hands, the size of a doll's hands.
Okay.
I told you this was a special treat for your birthday.
Okay.
Yeah. So, naturally, James decides to name his new pet. And he names him Jack. And then he decides, maybe instead of it being my pet, I should kill it. And so he tried to shoot it. And then he tried to trap it. And then he decided to poison it by leaving poisoned bread out on a tray near the place where they, like, claimed that they saw the creature, like, go behind, like, the wall or whatever.
Okay.
So that night, the creature screamed for a solid 20 minutes. But the thing didn't seem to have died because they continued to hear the noises every night.
Well, was it screaming because it was trying to be killed or screaming because it ate poisoned bread? Like,
I don't know. I'm guessing because it ate poisoned bread. But, like, these noises are so bad at night that it's, like, keeping everybody awake. So one night, the voice told Voyre, I am a ghost in the form of a weasel. I shall haunt you with weird noises and clinking chains.
okay.
A weasel with human hands.
Yes.
And understandably, Voyre freaks out and asks to move into her parents' room.
Well,
so they're trying to
I would ask to move out of my parents' house.
Bye-bye. I'm going to go live with my sister and brother in England. See ya. So they are trying to take her bed to their room, and the voice tells them, I'll follow her wherever you move her. So, like, at this point, I was kind of thinking of the Bell Witch.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be hurting Voyre, except for the one time that it threw rocks at her. But
Bell Witch was a little more menacing than that.
She liked, or it, I don't know, like to slap the girl that, I can't remember her name. We'll do that on another episode. So
Betsy, maybe? Something like that?
I don't know. I don't remember. So now James is like, you know what? If you can't beat them, join them. Or, I don't know, whatever. He decides to make friends with it. And he starts leaving not poisoned food out at night for the creature. And I was just thinking that if I was this creature, I probably wouldn't eat it after they tried to kill me. But the food is gone every morning. And food from the kitchen also starts going missing. And the creature apparently liked chocolate, bananas, and bacon. Last podcast on the left seemed to emphasize that he did not like fatty bacon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very specific.
Yeah. So he also didn't seem to like bread or milk. I would guess probably because bread is what tried to kill him.
It's traumatized.
I would be. So I guess as a thank you for the food, the family starts finding piles of dead rabbits on their porch.
Thank you.
Like, so many rabbits that they started a side hustle selling rabbits because this thing was hunting and killing and leaving these rabbits for them.
Get your dead rabbit.
Yeah.
Dead rabbits here.
Yes.
Fresh dead rabbits.
It's so weird. So now it's January 1932, and this thing has been tormenting them for like 4 months now, and Jack starts talking to James. And the first thing he does is he lets James know that his name is not Jack. His name is Gef, spelled G-E-F. So...
It's like the GIF and GIF argument.
Yeah.
Because that does not say Jeff.
Spelling is hard. So he's actually a mongoose who was born in New Delhi, India in 1852. And either on that occasion or over several occasions, he also told them that he was an extra, extra clever mongoose. And he also described himself as an earthbound spirit. One time he told them, "I am a freak. I have hands and I have feet, and if you saw me, you'd faint. You'd be petrified, mummified, turned into stone, or a pillar of salt."
Okay, Gef the Mongoose.
So, over time, he seemed to just become a regular part of the house. He even kind of guarded the house. He would tell the family...
Just us and Jeff.
Right. Or Gef.
Gef. Us and Gef the Mongoose.
So, he would tell the family if someone was coming to the house. He would put the fire out in the stove if the family went to bed and forgot. If they overslept, he would wake them up. He would scare mice away from the house. He also went with them to the market.
Well, he's an
extra clever mongoose or whatever it was.
He's a handy, lovable abomination.
Yeah. So, the thing I thought was funny is that, so it says that he went with them to the market, but they never saw him. So, but they knew that he was there because they would hear him talking the whole way.
He talks to Dad,
but from the other side of the hedges. And I'm like, were the hedges lining the entire like mile walk into town?
Mayhaps.
So anyway, so he would also leave the house sometimes and come back and tell them all the hot goss about the people in town.
Ooh, spill the tea, Gef.
Okay. So all this time, whenever James would go into town, he blabbed all about Gef. And the whole town, or the whole island, because the island's small,
yes,
starts talking about this talking mongoose that is like haunting Darlish Cashin. So Gef also gets the nickname of the Dalby Spook because Dalby was the name of the little town that was right there.
Okay.
News is slow, I guess. So news spreads and journalists and other people start showing up at the farmhouse to try to see or hear Gef. And some say that they have indeed heard him speak, or had, because this was a long time ago. And when the first journalist shows up, James brags to the reporter that he had taught Gef how to speak some words in various languages, including French, German, Spanish, Yiddish, Flemish, and Hebrew. And Gef, however, did not seem to like visitors at all, especially journalists, and especially anyone he deemed not to actually believe in him. So one reporter had left after not hearing Gef, and James called him back because Gef had started talking. And the reporter said he heard Margaret saying, "The gentleman has gone now." And he heard a voice shriek, "He has not. I can hear him whispering. I do not talk for these people. They are liars." And then he said, "I can see the shadow." And
he's a sassy little mongoose.
He's real sassy, actually. So there's a whole website of just Gef quotes.
I don't know how I feel about Gef.
So some people on the island believe that the family was involved in witchcraft or some occult activity.
Or ventriloquism.
Well, that comes up later too. So even though literally no one has ever heard of a talking mongoose before, James insisted...
A talking mongoose with human hands? An invisible talking mongoose with human hands?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
So, a sassy, invisible talking mongoose with human hands.
That also puts out your fire and tucks you in at night or whatever.
It screams for 20 minutes straight. So even though literally no one has ever heard of a talking mongoose before, James insisted that there was absolutely nothing supernatural happening at the farm. Gef was just an actual alive mongoose who happened to be able to talk.
They can't see him, though.
Well, he said that he thought maybe he had like a weird throat formation and heightened intelligence.
But they can't see him.
But Gef told them he was a mongoose.
But if there's nothing supernatural happening, why is Gef invisible?
He hides behind the walls.
Oh.
Yeah.
How can he see the shadows through the walls?
Bro, I don't know. It's clairvoyant
I don't
as
know
well.
how I feel about Gef. Or the people. I really don't know how I feel about the people more than how I feel about Gef. Because these people are just cool with it.
I know.
These people are just like, no, this is our magical talking mongoose Gef. Or not magical.
He's not magical.
He's not magical.
He's a real alive mongoose.
Our very normal talking mongoose named Gef with human hands.
It's completely normal.
This is natural. He's part of the family. Don't you dare insult my son.
Basically. So, with all the people flocking to the island and all the publicity Gef was getting, he soon attracted the attention of Harry Price. So, I don't know how much you know about Harry Price, but he's sometimes referred to as like the first ghost hunter.
I may know who you're talking about.
I think he first became famous for investigating the Borley Rectory, and he was part of the Society for Psychical Research, and he was also known for debunking fake mediums.
Yeah.
And I think he also had some kind of beef with Harry Houdini.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about.
So I think I some of those facts may not be correct. I'm just like trying to remember things that I have heard about him. But he's like a major player in like the like spiritualist movement and those kinds of things. So Harry decides to delegate the initial investigation of Gef to a guy who worked in his lab called Harold Dennis. So Harold heads to the Island of Man, and he gets to Darlish Cashin and hangs out with the family for hours, and Gef makes no appearance. Okay, talking mongoose.
Gef has something to say.
Yes, for does. Okay. Hush. I'm trying to tell a story about a talking mongoose. Yeah, I know. Okay, so Gef doesn't show up. And James decides he's going to walk Harold back to his hotel in Dalby. Is that right? Is that the name of that town?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, that is. Okay. I don't know why I thought it was wrong all of a sudden. So he decides to walk Harold back to Dalby. And as soon as they shut the door, they hear a voice shriek, "Go away, who is that man?" And they waited for a little while longer, and Gef didn't say anything else. Harold went back early the next morning and was told that Gef had been talking to James, like, all morning long. But Gef stopped talking after Harold showed up. Conveniently. James tells Harold that he'll have a stern word with Gef and convince him to talk to Harold that evening. But that Harold should also buy Vore a camera or a gramophone.
Yeah.
You know. So
while you're at it.
You know, maybe Gef would be more inclined to talk to you.
If you buy our daughter an expensive gift.
Yeah, it's totally fine. So James also told Harold that he would have to shout out how much he believed in Gef, because Gef told James that he didn't like Harold because he didn't really believe in him.
So what is it, like clap if you believe in fairies, or however the Peter Pan thing goes?
I guess so. But shout if you believe in Gef. So
just shout at the top of your lungs if you believe in Gef.
Yes. So that evening, he's sitting in the kitchen with James and Vore when something was thrown across the kitchen, and it turned out to be a needle. And then they heard plates being shifted, but nothing was there. And Margaret had been out visiting her parents, and when she came back, she went upstairs with Vore to see if they could talk Gef into going to speak to Harold. And Harold, was even shouting at the room at large that he believes in the talking mongoose. And he finally heard a voice say, "No, I don't mean to stay long as I don't like you." So nothing else happened that night, and Harold left, and the next day he went back to England with his report for Harry Price. And he said that he believed the family to be genuine, and he didn't think that they were making up the story, but he also didn't know what to think about the haunting, if that's what it was. And after Harold's departure, Gef starts talking more about his past. So he tells James that he had belonged to 2 men in India, and he had been shot and killed before he made his way to the Isle of Man and had settled in Dorish Cashin 20 years ago. He said a man named Holland had taken him through Egypt, and he had seen the Sphinx.
But he's dead.
But he's a real alive mongoose.
He's not a weird ghost supernatural mongoose. He's a real alive mongoose that died.
Also dead. Yeah. So he kind of attaches himself to Voirrey and is with her most of the time. He would follow her around the farm, and he would go with her to school, and they enjoyed playing hide and seek.
How do you play hide and seek with an invisible mongoose?
That's literally the question that I think every podcast I listened to asked. It was like, if he would always win. So Gef wasn't all fun and games, though.
And how...
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to figure out, like, I guess other than the fact that he can talk, supposedly, I guess, how would Voirrey know that he found her?
I don't know.
But how do you find Gef if no one's ever even seen Gef?
They saw a glimpse of him.
They caught a little snippet.
Yeah.
But I don't think that counts.
No. Well, they thought it counted. Alright, so Gef, not all fun and games.
If they saw him, they would have known he was a mongoose with hands.
I mean, they did. They said, well, I mean, they said
they didn't know he was a mongoose.
A rat-like creature.
Okay, well.
Good enough?
I guess.
Alright. Okay, not all fun and games.
Okay.
Okay, so once he told them.
I'm not sure if it's fun and games at all.
No?
It's pretty disturbing.
Yeah. So he told them once, I am not evil. I could be if I wanted. You don't know what damage or harm I could do if I were roused. I could kill you all, but I won't. Another time he said, if you are kind to me, I will bring you good luck. If you are not kind, I shall kill all your poultry. I can get them wherever you put them.
Maybe a pile of chickens this time instead of rabbits.
Well, then, I mean, that might be helpful. And when I was listening to Dark Histories, they also told another story about a time that Gef heard that a neighboring farmer was insinuating that Voirrey was behind the Dalby spook, and the next morning he woke up to find all of his poultry had been killed overnight.
Don't mess with Gef, guys.
Don't mess with Gef or Gef. In 1933, Gef was allowing the Irvings to pet him sometimes. All without being seen.
I guess it's like, I'll put my hand right here and you put your body underneath it.
Well, it was more like they would put their fingers through like the knot holes in the wall, and they would feel his fur, and he would grip their fingers so that they could feel his little
doll hands.
And once he allowed Margaret to put her fingers in his mouth so that she could feel his teeth.
I'm not sure how I feel about Gef.
Jeff's weird. If Jeff's listening, I don't think you're weird. I believe in you. I don't think you're weird at all.
You're not creepy in the least, Gef.
Oh, Gef, you're totally normal. You are a real alive mongoose who just happens to know how to talk.
You're intelligent.
You're an extra clever mongoose. Okay, so after this, they found a tuft of his hair or fur in a bowl, like an offering, maybe. And James sent it to Harold for testing. Harold sent it to Harry Price, who sent it to Professor Julian Huxley, who sent it to Martin Duncan at the London Zoo. And Martin wrote to Harry Price that the fur was not mongoose. It was also not rat, rabbit, squirrel, any rodent, sheep, goat, or cow. He thought that it came from a long-haired dog. He also, just a few days later, microscopically compared the hairs to hairs of a dog, and they looked almost identical. And it is worth noting that the Irvings did have a sheepdog named Mona.
Okay.
So once Gef told them that he'd sit for a picture with Voire's new camera, courtesy of Harold, I guess. But instead, he darted across the room so that when the picture was developed, there's no sign of Gef in the picture.
That rascal.
I know. So, I mean, he's very sassy. Harold visited the farm again 3 years after his first visit, and this time he actually stayed at the farm. And on one occasion, but while he was there, he heard the voice of Gef when Voire had gone out to the outhouse. And another time he heard Gef when Voire was out in the yard. And I guess, like, the significance of that is that people did think that she was a ventriloquist. And not just a ventriloquist, but, like, just a natural ventriloquist, like that she could just do it without having been taught and practiced. Mm-hmm. And so I guess he felt like if he's hearing the voice when she's not in the house, then it wouldn't be her.
Right.
So anyway, at about 11 o'clock one night, Gef started making his knocking noises, and the noises started coming from all over the house. Harold said in his report that he heard a bedroom door, like, bang, and he heard a voice say, "Go and look." And they all went upstairs. Voire had been in bed for a couple of hours at this point, and they found Voire's door locked from the outside. They opened the door, and she said she thought Gef was running around the attic. They went back downstairs, and Gef started screaming and knocking and thudding, and he kept it up for, like, a solid 15 minutes. And then they hear a crash from upstairs. So they go back upstairs and they find that, like, a really big, heavy chair had been knocked over. Gef starts screaming again. And then from the doorway to the kitchen, they hear a voice say, "Hello, everybody."
Gef is possibly a cat.
Maybe Gef is a cat. And lied to them and said he was a mongoose. Because cats are liars.
Cats are liars. They will destroy your house and then be like, "Hey,
here I am.
What's up?"
So, I guess this went on for, like, quite a while longer with more crashes and things being thrown around. And finally, Margaret yelled at Gef to knock it off. And he did. And the next morning, Harold went and bought some cream cakes for Gef and then headed back to England.
Okay.
Yeah. So after this visit, Harry Price decides to visit the house for himself. He's like, whoa, that sounds crazy.
Gotta get me a piece of this mongoose.
Yeah. So he and his friend Richard Lambert, who was Rex to his friends, visited the farm on July 30th, 1935. Rex was the head of BBC's adult education department and was the editor of the Listener magazine. The first night, Gef didn't make an appearance. The next day, Harry and Rex tried to take Voire on a boat trip to try to observe her and see what she was like away from the family. Mm-hmm. But James invited himself along, and he kind of dominated the conversation on the trip. And they went back to the farmhouse. Still no sign of Gef. But Harry Price did cut some of Mona's fur to compare to the sample that they had obtained before. They went back to England the next day. And apparently, as soon as Harry and Rex left, Gef showed up, announcing, "Well, I've come back."
Typical Gef.
Typical Gef. So he claimed that he'd been there the whole time, but he didn't want to talk to Harry Price because he was a doubter. He did agree to make a cast of... Oh, whoa, hold on. Siri's trying to talk to me and I don't really know why. Go away, Siri. She said okay. My keyboard keeps coming up too. It's driving me nuts. Okay. Where am I? I lost my place.
Make a cast.
He's going to make a cast. All right. So he agrees to make a cast of his footprints to send to Harry Price. He made a cast. So James, I guess, writes to Harry Price and asks him to send some, like, plaster of Paris to him so that Gef can make these casts for them.
Okay.
And he leaves the plaster of Paris out when they go to bed. And when they get up the next morning, Gef has made a cast of 3 of his feet and 1 of his teeth. And they send that back. And a zoologist with the British Museum said that they absolutely were not mongoose feet.
Well, they're little people hands.
Right. His letter stated, "This does not represent the footprint of any mammal known to me, except possibly a raccoon or American animal." He went... In America, we have mongooses with human hands.
Little human fingies.
And they migrated to the Isle of Man, and that's what happened.
Well, first they migrated to India.
Oh, India.
And then they got shot.
Yes. It's, you know what? They have a whole lore. So, he went on
Cats are playing with whatever they destroyed.
I think it sounds like a gourd. Do you think?
Yeah, but I don't want them to destroy it either.
We'll go get it. We can wait. Oh, right, Hazel. We can wait right here. Okay, so he went on to say that he thought that it might have been made by a dog, but also wrote, "There is no mammal in which there is such a disparity in the size of the fore and hind foot. This does not appear to me to represent tooth marks. Finally, I must add that I do not believe these photographs represent foot tracks at all." And I'm like, if it was 3 different feet, wouldn't one of them have been like a little hand? If he has human hands. So,
well, and that's the only thing that I can think of when he was saying maybe a raccoon, because raccoons
because they have little hands.
Little people hands.
That's true. So, Martin Duncan at the London Zoo compared the clippings of Mona's fur to the first sample, and he declared them absolutely identical. So, Harry Price and Rex Lambert published an article in the Listener magazine about their encounter or lack of an encounter with Gef, and James did not like this at all. He said their article was written in a mocking manner. And I guess later they also wrote a book about Gef. I don't know how much they could write about him, considering
Since
he didn't
appear for them.
Yeah. So other researchers visited, but after Voiré managed to get I wrote that weird. So other researchers had visited. Voiré, with her camera, managed to get a picture of Gef outside of the farmhouse, and I'll post that picture to social media when we're done here. And it kind of looks like a cat sitting on top of a fence. Hold on, I'll find it.
I told you Gef was a cat.
Gef is a cat. Let's see. Gef mongoose picture. So this is the picture.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can't really tell what kind of an animal it is. It just looks furry.
Could be a mongoose.
And I guess there were mongooses in the area, but I don't think any of them talked.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So this picture gets the attention of Nandor Fodor. And he's another psychical researcher and he becomes interested in the story. And Fodor communicated with James for almost 2 years before James agreed to allow him to visit the farm. And he booked a week's stay at the farm and arrived in February of 1937. And so this has been going on for like 6 years.
Yeah.
So he spends most of his time interviewing people from the community and getting their stories about Gef. Fodor himself did not encounter Gef during his entire stay.
Of course he didn't.
Right? In his report of the stay, he basically said, like, I can't prove or disprove anything because I didn't hear or see anything for myself. He did say that he thought maybe Gef was like a split off part of James Irving's personality.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't write it down, I forgot to, but I just now thought of it. There's a movie about this, about Nandor Fodor going to like research Gef the mongoose, Gef the Talking Mongoose. It has Simon Pegg in it, but apparently it's not funny at all. And it's, like, very serious, but also, like, I didn't watch it, but I've heard that it's very incredibly boring.
That's unfortunate.
I know, you would think Simon Pegg and a talking mongoose, like, just comedic history there. But alas, no.
Comedy gold.
You'd think. Okay. So, bizarrely, around the same time, after Harry Price and Rex Lambert had published their book, Rex Lambert caught some heat for being associated with the Talking Mongoose. And he had been on the board of the British Film Institute, and they were none too keen on his views of the occult and paranormal, and basically called him crazy and tried to kick him off the board. And he sued them for slander and was awarded £7,500 in damages. And afterwards, the BBC banned the term talking mongoose. Okay. Do not say talking mongoose around me.
If you dare say those words.
They thought that it would, like, bring embarrassment on the channel or company. British Broadcasting Company, I guess. So, in 1945, James Irving died. Margaret and Voyray sold the farmhouse and left. In 1946, a man named Leslie Graham bought the farmhouse, and he claimed to the press that he had killed Gef and was photographed with the body of a dead mongoose. Voyray saw the...
Corporation,
oh, yeah.
I was thinking it might be corporation, so I had to Google it.
So, Leslie Graham kills Gef. But Voyray sees the picture, and she's like, that's not Gef.
Okay.
Yeah. So, people think that maybe he did that to keep people from coming out there more. Like, he was like, Jeff's gone.
Jeff's dead, guys.
Done killed him.
No more Gef.
Yeah. So, the main theories, other than Fodor's theory about Gef being the split-off personality of James Irving, is, one, Gef was a poltergeist.
Okay.
Gef was an elaborate hoax made up by the Irving family, but, like, to what end? Because they didn't seem to have profited off of the story at all.
Hey, they were getting bank for those dead rabbits.
For the rabbits. That's what it was.
If they got rid of Gef, they wouldn't have their rabbit operation anymore.
So I did not write this down. I literally just thought about it when you said that. Something else that I think it was last podcast on the left that was talking about it. Voyray also liked to hunt rabbits. Mm-hmm. With the dog, and they would go out and hunt rabbits, and so perhaps she was the one killing the rabbits.
Yeah.
But piles of rabbits, I don't know. Some suspect that she was a skilled ventriloquist.
I was gonna say, a girl's got mad skills. She's a ventriloquist and a astute rabbit hunter.
A rabbit assassin. And then the other thing is that the house was built where, like, the outside walls, like the exterior walls and the interior walls, there was, like, a pretty big gap in between them. Mm-hmm. And so it acted kind of like, I can't think of the word, but, like, where sound could go through the walls. What am I trying to say? I feel like the word tube is involved there, but...
I don't know. I can't think of what you're talking. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the word that you're talking about.
And so they kind of thought that maybe, like, if Voyray was upstairs in her room and made the Gef sounds, that you would be able to hear them in other parts of the house. And so there was also that. But most everything seemed to center around Voyray being behind it all. Mm-hmm. That she was a bored 13-year-old living on a remote farm with no friends and made the whole thing up.
I mean...
Yeah. Jeffrey Sconce said that the most likely explanation is that this extra clever mongoose was an imaginary companion created by the Irving's extra clever daughter. So Voyray died in 2005, but even in an interview published late in her life, she maintained that Gef was real. She said that at times she even hated him because of the attention that he brought to the farm, but he was very real.
Okay.
So that is the story of Gef the Talking Mongoose. Not just the mongoose, the talking mongoose.
Talking mongoose.
Anytime you hear him mentioned, it's Gef the Talking Mongoose.
Yes. The invisible talking mongoose with little people hands.
Little people hands. He's a real live mongoose.
Real live mongoose.
That's dead.
That also happens to be dead.
And invisible.
I don't know how I feel about Gef.
Well, that was your birthday present, so you should love Gef.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for that sideshow of a birthday present.
It's good stuff. Yeah, it's a very silly story. I don't really know what to think of it.
No, I don't have a lot of words for that story.
Yeah, I feel like with all of the evidence, like with the fur being dog fur and other things, that like it most likely was not real.
No.
But it brought some like tourists to the Isle of Man, so they probably liked that. Mm-hmm. And it gave them some entertainment for like a decade.
There probably is. It gave them something to do.
Yeah, there isn't a whole lot going on over there besides motorcycle racing these days. Mm-hmm. The house, I said that earlier, that they tore it down not long after they had moved out, and so it's just like foundation stuff now. Mm-hmm. I looked it up on Google Maps. Like you can still see like pieces of the foundation around, but the rest of it's gone, which is a shame if it was built in like the 1300s.
Okay, but my question is, where is Gef now?
It's a good, well, Leslie Graham killed him.
But Lori said it was not Gef.
Sure. But how could she be sure? If she only caught glimpses of him before, how would she know?
I don't know.
She claimed, I don't remember what it was, if that one was bigger than Gef or if Gef was bigger than the one that was in the picture, but that was her reasoning for saying that it wasn't Gef. I don't know, because if he was a spirit, would he have stayed there, or would he have like gone a haunting somewhere else? And why don't we hear about Gef anywhere else?
Exactly.
And then there's all of the things that like the weird like burial mounds and stuff that are around there, and so people think it just could have been haunted. There was another story, and I didn't write it down, where like I guess some workers or some kids or something, I think it was kids, had like rolled a ball into the hedge like nearby, and that they went to try to get it, and there was like some kind of like invisible force like keeping them from like going any further. Or that the ball came rolling back out to them or something. But yeah, there's a whole website dedicated to Gef quotes. I feel like Gef could probably have his own like reality show on Oxygen or something.
He's a character, if nothing else.
That's right. I mean, he would put those Kardashians out of business. He has all the hot goss.
I would definitely watch Gef's show before I watch the Kardashians show.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're sleepy because it's late.
It's late. I have to go make eggs, though.
I have to go to work tomorrow.
Me too, but I still have to go make eggs.
Blech. Well, so social media at Twisted and Mysterious, or email us at twistedandmysteriousPodcast@gmail.com. Anything else?
Why do I feel like there was something else?
I don't know.
Whatever it was, it's gone now.
Excuse me.
Anyway, I think that's all we have for you this week. Next week's episode will hopefully be out at the right time.
It should be. Next week should go back to normal. Hopefully.
Okay, well, we will see you next week, or you can hear us next week.
Yeah, you probably won't see us.
And we won't see you.
No.
But you can hear our voices next week, should you feel so inclined. Yeah. We're kind of like Gef.
We will talk to you.
But you will not see us.
You will not see us. I'm also not going to let you pet my fur, though.
And I have tiny little doll hands.
Yep.
So...
Please don't stick your fingers in my mouth to feel my little teeth.
I'll leave you clumps of hair as a gift.
Blech.
Okay, well, that's us for this week. So remember that people are gross and don't get murdered.
And
Bye.
Stay away from Gef.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.